So now we're going to go ahead and write a ticket. Obviously, to start the process of writing a ticket, you come up here and click Ticket. Before you came back to your car, it was helpful that you got the license and the registration card back with you. If you can get both of those documents back to your car with you to scan, it makes the process of writing a ticket a lot quicker. So when you open up this first page, the first box you have here on the top left is going to be your case number. If you have to put a case number on your ticket, go ahead. Next, violation date and time. This takes directly off of your Windows time. If you're writing this ticket on the roadside, you can just skip right over this. If you're writing it pursuant to like a hit and run investigation or something like that, and you're a couple hours down the road, just make sure you change the date and time accordingly. Vehicle info, yes or no. If you're writing this on a regular traffic stop, it'll default to yes for you. If this is like a jaywalking ticket or you're writing somebody a marijuana in public ticket or something like that, you can check this over to no, and it will get rid of the requirement later to have vehicle information. Witnesses, yes or no. If you have witnesses to this violation, you can click yes here, and it'll allow you to either scan or manually enter as many witnesses as you want. Follow your department policy on that. If you have to put witnesses, go for it. If not, you can just skip right over this box as well. Now, down the entire right side of this document here, this is what we're talking about, the advantage of filling out your profile. All of these boxes here are pre-filled for you already because you already filled out your profile when you first logged into Sector. If we talked previously about what happens if I cross jurisdictional lines and I have to do a ticket in Sector. So let's say this King County officer is on his way home going through Tacoma and he has to write a ticket. This is where you're going to change jurisdiction for that individual ticket rather than all of your tickets like you would in your profile. The rule of thumb is to go ahead and write your ticket into the district court of wherever you are, the closest district court of wherever you are. So in Tacoma, Pierce County District Court. That way you're not accidentally sending a ticket to like a Tacoma Municipal when you weren't supposed to, or sending it somewhere that it wasn't supposed to go and they won't do anything with it. If you send it to the district court, they can load-eye it wherever it needs to go. Obviously, the best practice is to try and call another officer there if you have like a criminal investigation or something, but for the most part, this is what you do when you need to write a ticket outside of your jurisdictional lines. Okay, so going back here, readjusting all this. Now we're going to go over here, and this is where we're going to type in our road name and block number. Now, Sector requires either a block number or a milepost. So I personally never really use reference traffic ways. The only time I'm going to use a reference traffic way is if I'm dead center in the middle of an intersection when the violation occurred. You can do what you will, but just be aware you need a primary traffic way and a block number or a milepost. That's why I'm going to fill that out this way. City and county are pre-filled because of my profile. Finally, down here on the bottom left, the speeding calculator. Let's say this person was going 45 and a 35. If your agency uses RCW for speeding violations and not municipal codes, you can use the speeding calculator. It automatically will take that 45 and a 35 and pick the appropriate violation for me, the appropriate RCW off the bail schedule, and automatically attach it to my ticket. Now, let's say this guy was actually going 51 and a 35 and I'm just giving him a break to go, you need to write what you're giving them the break for, not the 51, because if I put 51 here, it's going to pick the 51 and a 35 violation. So now we'll just go through this, answer all these questions as appropriate, and once we get this page filled out, we'll hit next. So on this page, this is, again, the advantage of having something to scan here. I'm going to go ahead and scan the driver's license. And it will pre-fill all of those relevant pieces of information on the ticket. Now you'll notice when you press next here, it doesn't let you go past, even though you just scanned something in. Sector, these little red dots that pop up, and this applies on every document in Sector. These are critical fields. When you press next, if there's not an answer in a critical field, Sector will not let you complete that page and finish the document until you address them. So in the case of a license here, even though it's scanned in all of this person's physical and address and contact information, I still need to identify yes or no, did this photo ID match, and what was the race of the suspect. Now you'll notice there's a bunch of different boxes here that are blank. Not all the fields are required. Obviously, a best practice is to put in as much information as you can. Just be aware if it's not necessarily identified by one of these red dots, it's not something that's automatically going to get your ticket tossed out under court case rules. Now, before I move on, I want to show you two more things here. If this person legitimately has never had an ID card in any of the 50 states, or they're, let's say, a minor and they just haven't had a driver's license yet, whatever the case is, if this person doesn't have one, you can uncheck this box up here. It grays out the whole top line, and it will remove any requirements for driver's license information. Obviously, make sure you identify them, but if they don't have a driver's license, that's how you address that. If it's just a state ID card, if you click on that, you'll still need to put an OLN, a state, and an expiration date, but it'll gray out the military and CDL information. And finally, before we move on here, the concept of scanning out-of-state licenses. So every Washington license is going to scan in the appropriate format. Sometimes when you scan out-of-state licenses, the format's a little bit different. So you want to make sure if you're scanning an out-of-state license, you do a quick visual inspection to make sure everything matches up. I'll give you an example. The state of Georgia, this guy's name in Washington is Test Record Robinson, so it goes last, first, middle. If it was a Georgia license, it would have gone Test Record Robinson like that, which is obviously incorrect. So when you're scanning out-of-state licenses, just go ahead and make sure you do a quick visual inspection and make sure everything matches up. Okay, next page is the vehicle information. When I scan the registration, it will fill that in for me. Now, you'll notice that it automatically filled this in over here. This is because the person that owns this car is the same person that I just did a traffic stop on. Let's say it's a different person, so I'll scan a different car here. It will automatically fill in the appropriate registered owner information, even if it's a different person. The color of the vehicle, the only form that there's any legal requirement to have a color of a vehicle recorded is going to be your tow form, because there's Washington Administrative Code that requires tow companies to have that. So quite often the color will be blanked out here. Obviously, you can manually fill it in if you want. Just be aware, if it's not there, it's nothing you did wrong. Commercial vehicle, yes or no. One thing on this. Let's be clear what plus 16 passenger means. That doesn't mean there was a passenger in the car over the age of 16 years old. Apparently, we've had a lot of problems in the state of people selecting this and then doing that. If it's not a vehicle accommodating plus 16 or more passengers, don't put a yes there. That's what that actually means. Okay, last thing before we move on, accident type. If this was an accident ticket, even if it's a non-injury accident, you need to make sure you address this box. This box right here will activate the accident enhancement penalties on specific violations on the next page. So, whereas if you have a stop sign violation that causes a collision, instead of that $136 ticket, you'll get the $136 plus $51 accident fee when I go to the next page, because I've addressed this box. So, later on when you're writing tickets, if you expected an accident fee and it's not there, come back to this page and make sure you address that box. Okay, next page. Now, way back on page 1, we talked about the speeding calculator. See, it actually automatically picked out the appropriate violation for me and added it automatically. So if this was just a speeding ticket, I could just go ahead and press next right on through this and move on. We're going to add a few more things though. Up on the top bar here, you have this find button. The find button is what you're going to use to find any violations you don't frequently write. So let's say this person was speeding. We're also going to write them for DWLS third, DUI, and no insurance. Okay, so we'll go to the find menu. Now there's two ways to use the find menu. Let's say I am the kind of person that knows RCW 462342 is the DWS statute. I can type that in. All the DWLSs that apply to that code will show up. Then I can double click and press add. That's one way to use the find menu. The other way to use the find menu is to just use keywords here. So I mentioned we're going to write this person for no proof of insurance. Now you'll notice when I typed no proof of insurance there, nothing showed up. With this violation title containing field, search broad and then narrow it down. So instead of all that, I'm just going to type insurance now. Look what happens. So this is the actual wording for that violation, OPMOT vehicle without insurance. Obviously, because no proof of is not in here, it didn't show up. So I search broad, then I'll narrow it down. So now I can double click that, add that, and there you go. And finally, we'll do one more. We mentioned we're going to do a DUI here. Add that. Okay, so you may have noticed in the paper world, we have to write a criminal citation here and a separate NOI, and we have to pre-fill all that information on both tickets. You'll notice my civil, criminal, not only are they all in the same ticket, they're actually mixed together. Don't worry about it. Sector will automatically sort things for you and assign them to an appropriate NOI or criminal citation based on the case type right here. Okay, one last thing on this page. This officer notes button here. So this is the equivalent of writing something on the front of a ticket. So like in the case of the speeding violation here, speeding 10 miles per hour or over, if I were to write actual speed 51 miles per hour, that would allow me, every time I press add, it would add that officer note to the next violation I put on here. I actually do not use this box because if you forget to erase it, you will add that note to every single violation on this ticket. Instead, what I would recommend, let's say we're just going to put a note on this right here. Select the violation you want the note, scroll over here, either go to notes or press the edit button. Now, it will only put the note on the violation that you want it to apply to. It's a lot more efficient doing it that way. Finally, domestic violence. This box only applies if your agency does criminal citations for non-traffic offenses such as assaults, DV assault 4s in sector. There's no such thing as domestic violence DWS third degree. Do not check this box unless domestic violence actually applies here. Okay, so we'll press next. Now, this whole page is blank because way back here on page 1, I left this miscellaneous information box checked no. This was also left checked no in my profile. If your agency requires you to circle those, it's the equivalent of those circle boxes on the back of a paper ticket for street conditions, weather conditions, yada, yada, yada. If your agency requires it, you'll need to check this over to yes. It's not a legally required piece of the ticket, so I personally just leave it off. And I'm going to skip right over that page. Now, I'm still on the roadside writing my ticket to my offender. I'm not going to sit here and write my narrative at this point. At this point, I'm just going to skip right over this and go on for now. Penalty of perjury statement. We all know what this says. Press next. Now we're on the routing page. I mentioned Sector automatically sorted my tickets. So you see I have two different ticket numbers here, one infraction and one criminal traffic. All I have to do is tell Sector where to send this stuff now. For criminal traffic, it defaults to the option of filing with the court. This is, you are actually sending something, you're sending this ticket to the court, direct charging the person. If your agency allows you to do that, one of the things you need to make sure you do is you need to assign a date. So either you need to physically assign a date and time, you need to give them X amount of days to get to the court if that's your agency policy, or there's a couple agencies I've talked to where the jail is the one who puts the date and time on it. You can check this box right here. It'll leave it blank and allow somebody to manually fill that information in later. For a lot of agencies on the west side of the state, especially in King County, we don't directly file our criminal traffic. We will refer to prosecutor. To do that, you do the send to prosecutor queue. indicate whether or not you're going to be booking the person on these charges. And then prosecuting attorney. Now, I left it as no agency selected because, again, our agency doesn't have the prosecutor inside of it. If your prosecutor's in sector, and you'll know if they are, you can send it directly to their queue. Otherwise, leave it as no agency selected, print a copy out, and hand file it later, just like you would with a paper citation. The infraction, it defaults to file with court and officer give to violator. So it's assuming you're going to print a copy out and give a copy to the violator at the scene. If, let's say you write this ticket after you let your guy go, or you're writing this ticket later pursuant to an investigation and they're not there to give them a copy, you can change this box, court mail. You can also refer NOIs to the prosecutor's office if you need to. Next page. This is a soft warning. This happened because I referred a ticket to a prosecutor and I didn't select a prosecuting agency. It's actually not a big deal. It's just, it's more of a, are you sure you want to leave this blank kind of warning? You can skip right over it. This last page here is the final review page. Now you'll notice there's some fields that are highlighted. Those are the more important fields. So you want to make sure you go over this page and do a quick review, a visual inspection, and make sure your tickets look good. If you press previous from this page, you can go back and change any aspect of these tickets. Once you press next and go back, you'll notice the entire ticket is now locked down. So if you're going to be making any changes, make them before you press next from this screen. So press next. At this point, the print screen will show up. Print your ticket out. Give the copies to the violators. You're done. Press finished. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to leave the scene, drive somewhere safe, grab a cup of coffee. And there's one last thing we need to do to these tickets. We need to put the narrative on them. So I'm going to go to the ticket, sitting here in my queue, right click on it, view attachments. This allows me to write my narrative. Write my narrative up. If I decide I want to use a template, a lot of officers like to use templates for radar specifically. You can go to add local file here. Find the template somewhere on your computer and add it. The benefit of using add local file to use templates is in a Microsoft Word template, if you're doing it the old school way, you have to type all the person's information in, save it, and then delete all that people on your blank template. With add local file, you can select the blank template, fill everything in, and then it saves it as a temporary file. It never saves over your original template, so you never have to worry about the embarrassing possibility of being in Smith's trial and having Jones' name on the ticket. So that's one of the big benefits of add local file. So write your narrative, press OK. Do you want to save changes? Yes. And last but not least, when you're all done with that, do a send receive up top. And there you are. That's writing a ticket, both a civil ticket, an NOI, and a criminal citation. And those are the rules for how to forward them.